Why do Russian or Spanish speakers pronounce the letter L so differently in English? Like, why do we instinctively recognize it as foreign when a Russian speaker says like leg for leg, or a Spanish speaker says hold for hold? Well, that's because English L's do not have a one-to-one phonetic correspondence with Spanish L's or Russian L's. You might not have noticed this, but the L sound in English is actually pronounced pretty differently before or after a vowel. A good way to test this is to say the word leaf and then say the word feel. Before the E vowel in leaf, you hear the L sound as L, but after the E sound in feel, you hear it more like ol. These variants are often called the light and dark L, and they have very different acoustic properties comparable to the difference between the vowel E and the vowel U. The light L is the classic L that's just pronounced on the alveolar ridge right here in your mouth. But with the dark L, you contract your tongue a little bit farther back in your throat on your velum, so it's often called the velarized L. And a lot of languages just don't have this, including Spanish. So when a Spanish speaker sees an L in the word feel, their native sound system makes them want to say it something more like feel, because they essentially use this clear L in all contexts. And then the Russian situation is almost the opposite, although not exactly. In English, we perceive the light L and the dark L as just variants of one sound. But in Russian, they have two separate L's which they perceive as two separate sounds. And these two L's can appear in the same context and still sound differently. One of them is what's called a palatalized L, and it's pronounced basically simultaneously with a y sound. For instance, the Russian word for like a hatch is yuk. They often call that the soft L, and then they also have the hard L. But since this hard L has to distinguish words in the exact same context as the soft L, it has to be very distinct from it. So it can't just be a normal clear L. It has to go one step further and velarize like the L in the English word feel. Except for a lot of speakers, it's even more velarized than the English L, and it can be used at the beginning of the word, so the word for onion is look. And so neither of their native L sounds really maps on cleanly to the English clear L in words like leaf or laugh. So they could either say yaf or laugh, although they often go with the velar one because it's kind of considered the default L.